Ignition sequence. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have liftoff.
On today's episode, I'm joined by one of the most influential interior designers of our time, Kelly Hoppen, CBE. After beginning her journey at just 16 years old, she has forged an iconic career spanning decades. She has transformed spaces for celebrities, royalty, and global brands. So let's find out why she's a lady who launched. Right, before we get into it, if you like this episode, which I know you're going to, please don't forget to like and subscribe and to share it to your group chat. I'm so pleased that we are sitting down finally. I know that we've spoken before at a big live event, which I loved. And when I shared that we'd spoken, everyone was like, we didn't get to see it. We wasn't there. Please get Kelly on. So I'm so pleased that we're getting to do this.
I'm thrilled because I felt like we didn't have enough time the last time. There was so much more we could have talked about.
Yes.
We just got started.
Yeah, I know. You're so right. We're just scratching the surface. I always like to start these conversations in the same way because I think every single woman that I've spoken to on this podcast, I feel like it's become pretty clear that we learn so much about ourselves as founders, about women in business, in and around the industry. We learn so much in those younger years, and I think they shape us in some way, whether we realise it at the time. It kind of sort of rears its head a little bit later on. So tell me a bit about your upbringing and I suppose growing up, the impact that you think that's had on you and your life.
Yeah, I mean, totally. I always think, the early years of your life and the way that our parents bring us up are so incredibly important to who we become. And there are a lot of things that we look back and think that was irritating. My parents would always take us to museums and art galleries and get us to write essays about our trips away, whereas we would want to be on the beach. But actually, when I look at what I do today and how much of that influenced me without me even realizing it, or the fact that my parents would entertain a lot, but they would have all their friends and kids in the same room having lunches and dinners and wherever we were. And I would be like, I don't want to be with my parents. But actually, I learned so much about life and how communication with people and nurturing friendships and enjoying meeting new people and being encouraged by things that you hear and how you might think that your road is destined, but it isn't. There are all these little roads that go off it. So when you meet someone else and they inspire you. So I think a lot of my childhood was about people, about the arts, about eating around a table, listening to people, learning about things. And I think that because I started a business at 16 and a half, people still say, how did you do it? And for years I've gone, well, I just did. But actually, sometimes I think, well, how did I? But I think actually my upbringing kind of took me to that, to the point that I just felt confident enough that I knew that's what I wanted to do.
That's so interesting, isn't it? And that you had that kind of support network to do so, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely.
Where were you? So where did you grow up and how did that look? What did your parents do?
So I was born in South Africa, but I left when I was 2. So we came to London. My father was English. My mother is South African. My father went on the QE2 over to South Africa, met my mother.
Wow.
She wanted to get out of South Africa, so fell in love with my dad. They came back to London. My father was in men's fashion, and my mother had an amazingly interesting career. She was an antiquarian. Well, she studied law, so she was a barrister, but she became an antiquarian book dealer, specializing in maps of Africa.
Oh my God.
That turned into, and you'll love this, she suddenly realized that, and she was so stylish and beautiful, and people would want to go and meet her because she was renowned for what she did, thinking she'd be a little old lady, and she was like fabulous in her jumpsuits and hair tied back and Gucci belt and all of that.
Love her.
But she realized really early on that either you could afford masters, Picassos on your wall, or you could buy a poster. And because she'd collected books, rare books all her life and was interested in that, she decided to buy lots of books of things that she loved, not maps, and she would break the books up. And she went to Italy and got these incredible gesso frames, and she started like creating these art pieces and walls of art in a gallery, and people from all over America would fly her over to hang art and do these creations. But she then took it one step further and found artists and kind of was in the forefront of knowing what people wanted, like a trendsetter. So she created Escoffier, Poncelet, you remember the dogs with the...
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, that was my mother. All of these things. And employed these artists who got a royalty, and she then took that into licensing and did cards with Hallmark and whatever. So she was a true
Ahead of the curve.
like so ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
So I was surrounded by this creativity with fashion, art, music, all of this. And so that was kind of my upbringing around all of this. And my mother had amazing style. And the other day I found a great picture of her lying on her bed that was in what was then like the Hello magazine on a kind of zebra fabric on her bed in this fabulous outfit. And I was, God, the apple doesn't fall from, from the tree. But she was a real trendsetter, but highly intelligent and interesting. So that was my upbringing, really.
That is so cool. And I suppose you're just, without even knowing it, just a sponge in that
you're just
environment,
taking
aren't you?
it
You're
all
just
in.
soaking everything up. I mean, well, it sounds quite apparent. You know, you've got a busy household, you're entertaining, the home is clearly very, very important to you. But as is being a creative, where did that love for interior design start? And did you even know that interior design is what that love was?
Yeah. So my grandmother's home, I write in one of my books, was really the seed for me. So if I was to show you pictures of her home in Cape Town, it was nothing like what I do.
Right.
But it was how I felt in it. Everything from the smell of the cedar cupboards to the coffee in a cupboard to the way we would pick our hydrangeas and lay the tables and entertain and family and everything. That was every Christmas for me. That was my happy place, my grandparents' home. And it did something to me. If I could have bottled that, it would have just been something. And then my mother also had that. So from a very early age, when I was in London, every weekend my mum would say, what do you want to do this weekend? And I never wanted to sort of go out and play with friends because I was bullied at school. I go, let's go and see show flats. That's what I wanted to do on weekends, yeah. And I would page through Architectural Digest and see the before and afters. And then my mum would say she'd go out for dinner, she'd come back, and somehow I pushed furniture around the living room and restyled it at the age of like 8 or 9. And I'd always be tidying things up in the house and in my bedroom. And at the age of 12, redesigned my bedroom from a girly pink bedroom to sort of, it sounds awful now, brown suede, fake suede walls.
That's right up my street.
Okay, with a trim in chrome and chrome chairs and shutters and, so from an early age, I knew that's what I wanted to do.
That's so interesting. And you describe spending time in your grandma's home and I suppose that being really special to you. What was the feeling that you loved rather than the style of the home? What was
the
that
experience of it.
Right.
So I've always said in all my books, way back to the first one, it's not what's in the house first and foremost. It's how you feel. And, you're very much like that. If you go into, my partner always laughs and says, we go to a hotel, he waits in reception until I've gone up to the room, I've checked it all out because there's going to be about 5 changes before, so he's having a drink downstairs.
Because you do your thing.
You feel when you go into someone's home if it feels right. And great design is about not being able to put your finger on a coffee table or a chair. It's about how you felt in that moment in someone's house. And good design is when someone comes to your home for dinner and they come back again and they go, oh my God, is that new? And you go, no, it's been there from day one. It's not about clocking everything in the room. It's like fashion. What was it about that? But everything worked. She just had it. It's about how you feel in a space. So that's what I took from my grandparents, was how brilliant I felt. And it was everything. It was about the people, it was about the smell, the food, the cooking, the beds, the everything rolled into one. I wanted to be able to create that for people. And that's what I've done all my life, really.
It's so special to be able to do that. Like, it's such a skill, as you say, and I've never actually thought about it before, but I suppose everything has to just feel seamless, and it doesn't, like you say, noticing something new every time, but it not being new.
But think about it now, when you're designing your new home, you'll do your boards, your designers, or you put it together. But I always say to my clients, try and close your eyes and think about being in that space. And what does that feel like when you're going into another space, or your kids come running in, and, you can really build a home around the feeling rather than what it looks like first.
Yeah. And that's exactly how it should be in a home.
Yeah.
Right? It's exactly, each home is so personal, I suppose, and you'll know that with your clients. It's so personal to that individual and creating the feeling that I suppose they want.
And if you pick the right clothes, like we know as women, not if you were to pick in your mind the clothes you were going to wear for 7 days, probably 3 of those days would work out. The rest, when you put it on, wouldn't.
Yes.
Because of how you feel.
Yes, you're so right.
So how you feel in your clothes can make such a difference to your day. I've had days where I've got dressed and one thing has niggled me, and it just is so stupid because it shouldn't change your day, but how you feel in your skin and clothes is the same as when you design.
Yeah, so important. I've never actually seen it like that before. It's so interesting because it's a feeling as opposed to aesthetic, but that kind of has to marry, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You touched on not having the best time at school. Why was that, do you think?
God knows. I probably was awful, I'd like to I'd like to think that it wasn't me, but probably, the fact that I would go to my grandparents' home every year in Cape Town and I'd come back and tell everyone about it. Maybe people didn't like that, but I was bullied, and I was just surrounded. I was unlucky that there were girls that were just that kind of bully. And I'm a real pioneer and worked with the Diana Awards, for many years about it. Because if I hear that any child, even a child I don't know, has been bullied at school, I'm ready.
It's
it
just
kills
an
me
awful
inside,
thing, isn't it? And I think it's so interesting. My eldest she's 12, so it's sort of that tricky age where there's sort of first she'll be going into the second year of like secondary school age, and the dynamics, and I've really noticed it now of how that changes, and and how girls are to each other. And I think, oh God, if I could shield her from anything in life, it brings out this lioness in you. And I wasn't a victim of bullying, but my daughter's definitely going through a touch of that at the minute, and it is so difficult and it's so hard to watch, but also know how to
handle it.
Yeah.
So what I found fascinating the other day was my daughter and I were talking about something similar, and she said something that really resonated. She went, I will never want my child to be a victim of bullying. I was a victim.
Right.
And she was saying there are ways of dealing with it so that the child who is being bullied deals with it in a way that they are more empowered.
Yes.
I wasn't.
Right.
So I became the victim. So still today, there are occasions in my life where I will see somebody talking in another room quietly together. It will bring back a memory of something that happened to me. So it was very ingrained in scars in me.
It's triggering.
But yeah, it was just, I hated schools. So for me to get out and start a business, I thank that from happening, because it gave me the power and the tenacity to go, I'm going to go out and be my own boss.
And find your own people.
Find my own people in my own world. It was just not an option. So that's how it happened.
So for you, that was at 16?
Yeah. 16 and a half. Everyone always laughs, but it was a big deal, that half year.
Yeah, it is. It is when you're 16. So tell me about this. Because that is very young to not just sort of look to work, but to start a business.
Yeah, but that's the little steps that I always tell people to start a business, because everything's on Instagram today. Everybody assumes fame is overnight, and there are a lot of people on Love Island that get fame overnight and 3 million, followers on Instagram. That's not reality. That's not a sustainable, organically grown business. So when I started my business, it was a friend of my stepfather's, basically choosing a kitchen and putting it in and managing the build.
Right.
The business really began when a girlfriend of mine was having an affair with a very famous racing driver, and he said he wanted both of us to do up his home, but basically he wanted me to do it so that he could be with the girl.
Oh my gosh! Right, hang on a minute. This is like a Netflix.
So I know.
I'm buckled up.
That was my into interior
Right.
design. An incredible house in the middle of the Boltons, designing something. But that's fine. I knew how to design it. But I had to find my own builders, my own manufacturers, source things or whatever. That's where I was resourceful. I could do that. That came from my mum. That was the same brain,
Yes.
And you didn't have Google, you didn't have any of that stuff. It was getting in a car, driving, networking, finding people. But
Building
I
a
did
team.
built a team. And from that job, I got a string of racing drivers, Grand Prix racing drivers, actors and other people through word of mouth. And my first very well-known client basically said, please don't tell anyone about the house or whatever. And from that day, I never told anyone who I worked for, because I was so scared that I would lose the job. So only if a client mentioned it to the press. And actually, it was something that taught me you don't have to talk about who you work for, because you are chosen on the basis of what you do.
What you bring to the
That's
table.
what,
Yeah.
So it was a real lesson.
It's because it's a very young age to know what you want to do. That be so ingrained with you throughout your childhood, from being at your grandma's house to sort of being a sponge around your parents. Starting that business, knowing that actually, hey, I've now built a team, and probably at the time you don't even realise what you're doing. You're just trying to make the job happen. But was it quite apparent to you from the jump that you were really going down the right path? Because obviously lots of us have several different jobs to find the thing that sticks, or you can have a passion for something, but something doesn't quite align. To be able to know where you want to be, have that feeling, and then almost be going down that right path.
100%. One thing I do remember is I never questioned that I was doing the right thing. Like, I knew that was that was what I wanted to do. There was never a question in that. And actually, my mum would always give me good advice. My dad, when he was alive, told me, in business, you only spend what you can. My mother told me, you get the VAT money, you open another account. The best advice she ever gave me, that's not your money. Then this is what, So, and I've never been good with money. So this, I learned everything. I used to write all my own orders. I would do everything. I only had one assistant for many years. And then a girl came to me and said, I will work for you for nothing. I was already kind of quite well known in my field, maybe 22. And she said, I will work for you until you realize you can't live without me. And she stayed with me for 10 years.
Wow.
And that's how I started to build the business. Then I moved out of home after the kids went to school and got a studio. And so kids were always first, because I had 2 stepkids as well. And grew the business. So when they were all at boarding school, because Natasha decided to go with Sienna and Savannah, I was like, what do I do from 3 o'clock in the afternoon?
Yeah.
What did I do? I just ran with the business. Wow. And that's when it just exploded. And it was, I never looked back, ever.
It's so great to hear your tenacity and your knowing that this is right, and knowing that this is what you want to do, and keeping at that and moving with that momentum. Because if you talk about starting a business at 16, the career and the business that you've managed to sustain, is so, so powerful.
Yeah, but remember, when you're that young, fear doesn't come into it.
Yeah.
Right? If we was to start a business today at my age, you would be fearful of things going wrong because you're thinking too much. I think when you're younger, that one thing that you've got, that prize that you're holding, is you don't really care, because if it doesn't work, you just do something else.
Yeah.
And that actually is the one sell that an entrepreneur has, that if something doesn't work, you're just like, okay, fine, on to the next. That's just inbred in an entrepreneur's brain. And I'm not saying that there weren't many times I tripped up and fell or didn't work, but those were the moments that I grew even bigger. And I always say to people, you need to fall to get to that next phase in your career. And it still happens today. Things happen all the time where you just think, oh, that's a bummer. Okay, right, what's next? Because it's already there, the next.
Yeah.
It's just waiting, you know?
Yes, you're so right. And it's just knowing which, you know.
Just navigate. You
Exactly
just got to
that.
navigate.
And it might be a slight wrong turn, but it leads you onto the right track
Yeah,
eventually. So let's go back to you being sort of 22. You've got these kind of high profile clients. You're really gaining, that word of mouth is everything, I suppose, at that point, because that's long before social media and being able to share projects in real time, and there's a whole different sort of landscape.
It was newspapers that you were put in, or magazines. But then, you know, 23, I get pregnant and have a baby.
Me too. I was 23 when I got pregnant.
Yeah. So then I just shut the business down for a year. Wow. Who thought you could do that? I literally just shut it down.
What, and said, that is it? We're not...
No, I want to spend time with Natasha.
That is so
But
incredible.
towards the end of that year, when I was 24, I was like, well, hang on a minute, I need to get back to work. So then I did the juggling thing. So I kind of had that amazing year off. But I was...
That is such a brave thing to do, too. Like, that is...
Yeah, that was brave.
Yeah. And instantly, did you know closing the business for a year, was that kind of a non-negotiable? Because I think...
I didn't know what I was doing. I just shut it. I remember the day that I was just like, okay, that's it. Wow. But I didn't even think. I was so young, and I was pregnant for 9 months, obviously, but didn't realize until 9 months that I was pregnant. I was like, yeah, I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm actually pregnant.
I so know
Do you know what I mean?
I remember it so much because I was the same. I got pregnant. We got married and I got pregnant, and when I think about it now, like, and I think about my sisters and my siblings, I think, gosh, 23 was so young. Like, I got married at 23, then fell pregnant about 2-3 months later. So I was just 24 in the March, and Alea arrived in the May. And I so know the feeling that you described, because I just remember talking, like, I'd bump into someone, I'd be like, yes, I'm pregnant, but I didn't really. It's all a blur when I think back. Like, I don't think I really connected the dots.
Yeah.
It was, okay, I'm pregnant and I'm in a girl band. What a girl band? I'm pregnant. Isn't that like against the law?
Yeah. I remember watching television and suddenly seeing a foot come out. It was like Altered States. I was like, get it out. I was like, that was the moment,
It's funny. And I don't know if that is because it is young, isn't it? You're still kind of figuring everything out. But what I admire is I was probably sort of in reverse to you, like, really, I remember thinking that I had, and I think actually by others I was almost made to feel like that too. I felt that I'd let everybody down by having a baby. Oh, incredibly so. And I think it was really sort of felt like I was pregnant, but I was in a girl band, so I was trying to be...
Right, yeah. So
I
you
was
had
pregnant,
other
but I was
people...
almost trying to not be pregnant, even though
Yeah.
everybody knew. It was like, it was almost felt like I had a hangover. So I couldn't talk about it. So if you felt
That's
sick, it
not
was like you
nice.
didn't
Yeah,
want to.
yeah.
And then even coming back, I remember us having a single that was out, like, I don't know, 5 weeks after Alea was born. And I remember she was probably 4 or 5 weeks old. And I was like on Lorraine or Good Morning Britain doing a performance. And I remember like my boobs leaking. And I like squeezed myself into some Spanx. And I look back and I think, God, like,
Yeah.
I'm almost like annoyed at myself for just not... But I don't think I really understood
it's
the
very,
impact
very
of
young.
having a baby and what
Yeah.
that meant to me, and how I should have just let myself rest and kind of really got my head around the whole experience. But I was so scared of ruining it, and is that the end of my career, and how does that look, that I just kept going. Where
I never thought it was at the end of my career. I just thought great, I'm having a baby, but I didn't really understand what that
What that
meant.
meant, yeah.
But I am so glad I did then,
Oh.
because now, our relationship, and I have a grandson, and it's just like everything is good. And I look at people in my studio now, because I have a lot of staff and they're from the ages of 23 up. But people today, women have babies way later, and
Yeah.
everything's changed. People live longer, people have babies later. But I'm glad I did it young.
I am.
You know.
I am. And I think the grass is always greener, isn't it? And I think, like, some of my best friends are starting now, and, like, I'm in my late 30s. But I kind of, and everyone says to me, do you think we'll have one more? And I'm like, I did it at the front end, I've got to be someone's crazy auntie now. So, I've got to be
totally.
When everyone was in Ibiza, I was indoors with a baby. And it kind of, there is a period of time when you have a baby young that it is a little bit isolating if your friends aren't doing it at the same time.
Now
It's the best ever. And obviously you wouldn't change a thing, but I admire you so much for sort of, whether you meant to or not at the time, just
well, I didn't mean to, and I didn't mean to
break.
have 2 stepchildren either, like that early on. But actually, I wouldn't change anything for the world. Instant big family. It was brilliant.
Yeah, it's so nice, and that goes back to those times that you love, having everyone around the table, and it kind of
everyone arguing, and that's all life, all of that. And now I see it with my children. My daughter and stepdaughters. They've all got families and everything, and you kind of see it all again.
It's so nice. It's so special. So going back to you having your daughter and closing the business, when you decided, okay, I'm ready to pick this back up again, open the doors, what was that moment like? And was it quite a challenge from going quiet to sort of letting everyone know, hi, I'm back doing this again? Or was it as soon as you press go, it was quite hard to keep up with?
That was probably the most difficult time. And I was heavily, as I always am, into gym and working out. And I was going down to Pineapple Studios, pretty much every day, training. And I met this girl, very stylish girl, and we started chatting in the gym and whatever. And, and she said, oh, I love interior design. I love what you do. And, I hadn't been really working that long, but people knew my style, the Hoppen style. And I just sort of went, well, why don't we start a business together? Big mistake. So, I didn't need to share, but I was so scared to go back to work, as a new mother. So we started a new business, and that lasted probably 3 years because I was the grafter, she wasn't, and it wasn't worth.
Right.
But the first year was lovely having that companionship. So to feel like I could get back into work, because regardless of what anyone says, your hormones take another 9 months to go back. And I was very vulnerable. I was very young and I didn't know quite how to do it. Once I got over that little partnership and little kind of blip in the business, then I was like, boom, I am Kelly Hoppen. I know how to do this. I can do it on my own. And so it was a process. But from that day on, there was no stopping me at all.
Wow.
At all.
When I grew up, and I definitely grew up in a time where, it's my mum and the way I was raised was, in terms of values and morals and everything else in between, it's very similar to how I raise my children. We're obviously in a very different financial position that my mum was in when she raised me. And I don't think I knew anybody that had an interior designer. That wasn't kind of our world and our circle. My mum,
I don't think anyone did.
Probably went to B&Q and decided what wallpaper we were having, and that was quite a fun thing that we liked to do together. But when I think of putting interior designers on the map in the mainstream publicly, there's only one person I think of, and that's you. You're the first kind of interior designer that I kind of remember knowing, if that makes sense.
I've been shouting about it for so long.
No, but I think it's so interesting, the concept of, that being something. And I think what you did too is by putting it on the mainstream and that not being, in circles that could afford it, you sort of brought that sort of, made it accessible. Made it accessible. And I think that's what for me, and I was actually discussing, I was talking to my mum and my aunt last night, and I was saying, I've got Kelly Hoppen on together, and they're like, oh, I love her. And they love your bits on This Morning, and they were like, when you're on and she's on, I love it. But I think you brought that kind of, we can all have a piece of this elite pie. And I think there's something so brilliant about there, and something so genius about that, opening the doors to, I suppose, the little black book of the...
I don't think I was genius when I started it. I know that, so it's kind of two answers really. So at that point, I was approached by a lot of brands to do licensing. And because my mother had done licensing and I read everything Martha Stewart had ever done, I was obsessed with her. I knew how to get into that. So that's how the brand happened.
And just for like listeners listening to this, how would that proposition look for you?
So like Wedgwood.
Right.
Came to me and said, we'd love to do a license with you. You can go into our archives and design an incredible range. And I'd be like cool as cucumber and then go outside and go, and then I would design something and be flown to America and launch that. And from the back of that, Frette would come to me and ask me to do everything. And that's how it kind of went. And it made really good money. And so that's where I got into product design. Whereas like in COVID, I was going on this morning and doing it from home, and because everyone was looking into everyone's homes because we were stuck in it, I suddenly went, oh, hang on a minute, I've been doing the very highest end for my entire life. I now want to create a range for everyone. And that's how Marks and Spencer came about. So that was very much thought out. Whereas at the beginning of my business, when all of these brands started coming to me, that just was something that unfolded in front of me. But it made me grow the business from interior designer and architect to product designer to creating my own brand, so that the day somebody went, that's very Hoppen, that you become an adjective. People often say, what were the defining moments? Most people would say getting a CBE like I got, or, I don't know, Terence Conran saying, I want you to write a book for me. But for me, it was that. I've never forgotten it. That's very Kelly Hoppen.
That actually makes my...
that was the most specialist thing, because then what you're designing is generic enough that it works. And so the neutral thing and that whole kind of design ethos that I had was all about creating the backdrop for people to put their own identity into their homes.
Right.
But that for me was like, that was it.
That's crazy, isn't it? And I think when you're doing those kind of licensing deals, right, particularly if you start in that space, it kind of gives you a license, for want of a better word, to test that market. The risk isn't on you. You're kind of having the fun and doing the creative.
Because it's a big risk.
It's a huge risk.
Huge amount of money. We still do licensing deals. I was in talks this morning on something I really want to do. And, if you've got to put all of the money up front to manufacture it, distribute it, to anyone listening to this, that is a full-time job that I'm not qualified to do. And as you go through business and as an entrepreneur, you realize you do what you're good at, and you have to find the people that can support you to do those things for you in your business. And that is a really big moment. I can't be good at everything, but I know what I'm really good at. And if I focus on that and find the other, what I call soldiers that create your army that support you, because, they say it takes a village to bring up a child, or whatever the expression is. I probably got it wrong. I'm good at malapropisms, I think it is. But I know that in my business, my team and everyone around me make it possible. Yeah. So I think, licensing is a great thing to do.
I enjoy licensing, obviously. And I suppose we're both very fortunate that, I do both. I have a couple businesses, but I also love, I do licensing with Next, where I put edits and ranges together, and I've always loved doing it, and I have so much fun. And it is kind of, I really notice those moments now where something is mine and something's my baby, and the headache and the joy and everything else in between that it gives me. But then when I pop in for those licensing moments,
Yeah,
I'm
and
like,
you can see you enjoy it because the product is so good. Everything you do about it is brilliant. And I think in business, you know, you're a perfect example. Like everything you do, you shine. It's
so
like
nice.
it's got a positiveness about it. It's authentic, you know, and authenticity is really important. And as you grow older and you become wiser, you look back at times in your business where you think, oh, I could have done that differently. But as you grow in a business, you know what's right. You know what tone of voice you need. You know how to
Yes.
be with people. You know how to get things done, you know. And I think the enjoyment you get out of something ends up in somebody else's home or on someone or someone sitting on it or whatever. If it's designed and created with that intention, it's received better.
Yeah, you're so right. And it's clear. You can't fake that, and
You can't hide from, yeah.
and you can't. I don't think you can sell to people if that isn't there. I don't think you kind of want to be able to. There was that phrase where someone says, "I'm buying what you're selling, honey." It's
Yeah.
you want to be invested in that, and you want to feel like you're part of that story. And I think that is exactly like I could say, "Oh, that's a Kelly Hoppen over there." That, you know, I would instantly be able to spot your style, and I think that is in what you do. That is everything, isn't it?
Yeah, no, listen, that's great. Thank you.
I want to talk about the pressures of running a business, you know, and yours is so detailed, right? There are so many different strands of your business. But when the business is a self-titled business,
I know.
I want to talk about that because I spoke to Joe Malone a lot about this, and I find it's something that really interests me. I think yours is really interesting because it covers, I mean, there's the kind of the media side and the like books and the product side of the business, also I guess the service-based side of the business. There's so many. It's quite nuanced. There are so many different strands of what you do. Is there I mean, this is probably about 5 questions in one, but I'm just so intrigued because there's that pressure, right? When somebody wants Kelly Hoppen, they want Kelly Hoppen. And I'm always interested in this because I think as you grow, there's only one Kelly Hoppen, quite literally, to split your time and your energy into everybody, be so personable. Is there ever a time where you think,
why didn't I call it something else?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can answer that 100%. So if I started again, would I change the name? Maybe. I think when you have your name above the door, it puts a lot more pressure in so many different levels. I've just changed the name of my company.
What?
Yeah. I mean, it's the first time anybody's sort of heard this because I haven't done it kind of legally.
Yeah.
My company name from day one was Kelly Hoppen Interiors. And I was on a trip, not a holiday, but a work trip in Brussels. And I had an aha moment. And I said to a couple of the team that were with me, because we were having a creative time, I went, oh my God, the minute we get back to the studio, I'm redecorating the boardroom and I'm calling it Kelly Hoppen Creatives.
I'm laughing because I just feel like when you speak, I'm listening to myself. This is so something that sometimes we message and I'm like, hi, it's 4 a.m. I knew you'd be awake. Hi. That is so funny.
And the team said, why? And I said, because I've had it so long and it's not just me anymore.
Yeah.
It's a creative hub.
Yes.
Gives me shivers, actually. And everyone in the company was so happy because I'm like, it's not just me, it's all of you. And I can't list everyone's names. So now when I'm in the boardroom and I've got the thing behind, people say, oh, Kelly Hoppen Creative. So we'll change all the, stuff legally.
Yeah.
But, and as you grow a business, like I have, the interiors business, obviously people want some of me, but I've worked a way now where I put the concepts together, but I have an army of people who do all of the other stuff. And I don't have to be at every meeting. So I'm with the people I need to be with, the clients I need to be with. There was a client in yesterday, one of my lead designers, they said, oh, they're such a big fan. They can't wait to meet you at the next meeting. I only have people in my company who are as brilliant as I want them to be, like they are incredible. And I remember Lucy, who runs my company, said to me one day, and it really surprised me. She went, it's not the client I have to please, Kelly. It's you, me. And I said, what do you mean? They said, because if you're not happy with it, the client won't be. Wow. So I'm almost like her client on every single job. And as I was running out the door, she was giving me something because I'm with a client for dinner on Saturday night and I have to show them something because we're building an extension on their home. And she was like, can I just go through it with you so you know what to say? And I was like, I know what to say. And she was like, no, I want you to. She said, and everyone that works for me is as particular as I am.
And you and that is the thing, right? You have created and built. It goes back to the you at 16.
I know
that you're putting those teams together, and that's what you do well. And I suppose it's taking everyone under your wing, and as we say, it takes a village, right? And building that village
the culture
in the right way
is really key. And it's really interesting. Recently, we've been working with this amazing life coach, and he was like, what is the culture of your business? And I'm like, what do you mean the culture? And he really made me think about it. And when you start to write down what the culture is and you start to change things, some people start to leave because they can't live in that, so we've now created a company that I would just say is perfect. Like the people in it, the way we are. We just had an away day in the summer. At beginning of the summer, it was the best away day we've ever had.
Amazing.
Like, when you just feel it's just perfect,
Yeah.
So a very long-winded way of answering. It's harder when it's your name. But I feel like I've changed it slightly now. So it's become like a creative team, really.
And also, I think it's so interesting because, and I think, when we look at the likes of Jo Malone, she, hers is quite intricate because she's
she
almost
sold her name. Yeah.
But actually, for me, when I find there's a real appeal in that. Like if it's Kelly Hoppen Creatives, or even before you changed it, interior design, however that looks. For me, that gives your stamp of approval, So I kind of...
Yeah, but if you sell your business, if I was to sell my business and I walked down and saw Kelly Hoppen cushions and they were choppable, and I'd be like fuming, right? Right, Jo Malone, I designed Jo's home when she was still making the product in her little kitchen.
Wow.
I was on the floor with her and Gary when she had the first offer of her business. I mean, I was like there.
Incredible.
For her to then sell the business and not have her name, but like she's reinvented herself with Jo Loves because she is the only scent, let's face it, right? But if you were to sell your name, I've often thought about it. What would I feel like if somebody else had a Kelly Hoppen product and it wasn't mine?
And how would you feel when you went past a window
and it
display
wasn't right?
You couldn't control that.
That would,
yeah. And I think, and I actually had that conversation with Jo, and she said that actually, I think it does take a while to sort of get used to, but you have to it's been such a kind of instrumental part in her story, and she's gone to have, continuous success with Jo Loves. But actually, there's something quite nice about knowing that the best-selling fragrances are still the one that you developed, and that will always be
and
her.
it always will. She's got an extraordinary business.
Do you, when it comes to running a team, like how many people are there in your team?
48, 50 in London. Wow. Too many.
That's a lot. Because I often find this, and this is something that I ask these questions because I want to know, because there are always things that I'm also dealing with. When you are, and we discuss this, the creative side of the brain is definitely the side of mine that's like lit up and always on fire. When you almost, I suppose, when you've got a passion for something and you're good at it, and then you stumble across the idea of, okay, now this is a business, and now your business is huge and it has been for years. Running and managing people, I suppose, was never at the forefront of our mind when we're excited about the creative. So what sort of leader are you? What do you think your team would say? What sort of leader are you? And how, is it something that you enjoy, or is it something that you've learnt to be good at?
So I remember Anya Hindmarsh, who I've known for years, once said to me, it's really lonely being a boss. And I remember that resonating, and I was like, God, it is, because everything's in your head. And to be a good leader of a business, you have to turn up every day and say hello to every single person in your office and be bright. Because if I walk into my studio and I'm like, oh, hi, yeah, okay, like that, the whole tone of the studio will come down. I'm not saying I'm the most important person in that room, but it will.
Yeah.
But if I walk in and I'm like, yay, come on, this is Monday, we've got this, and how amazing is that, and everything, you suddenly see the energy rising, right? But what I've learned is that people in your business, if you layer it, and people have different jobs in the business and responsibilities, it balances it out so that, as I was saying earlier, if you know what you're good at. I am a very good leader. I'm a good, like, what do you call it? Rah-rah. I should actually have my own pom-poms because I can get everyone up dancing.
Yes.
I'm good at that. But I'm always, peak too early and want to go home early.
As long as it's not past 9 p.m.
Exactly. But what I've learned recently, working with this incredible guy who I've only seen like 4 or 5 times, he taught me how to stop running my business, but to lead my business.
Ooh, okay.
That's a goodie, that one.
Yeah.
It's a really good one. Think about it after this, because there's a point where you come to your business and you can't keep running it. It's too big. You're the creative. You know what you're really good at. But what's important at that stage is to lead. And I sat next to somebody at a party a few months ago who owns a very well-known production company, one of the best. And he said the same thing had happened to him. And then we sat for like 3 hours over lunch on a mountain talking about it. And I came away feeling like, whoa,
Buzzing, yeah.
And I just thought, God, it's good that we're talking about it now, because I think it's a really important thing for people in business to learn that there are different roles as you go through business. At the beginning, you're doing everything from packing to writing to running to this to that. You are everybody. But if you get to a point later in your business, or any point in your business, you'll know when it's a gear shift.
Yes.
And it's important.
And it takes different sort of skills and a different one of your strengths at different points, doesn't it?
Yeah,
and different
totally.
phases of that.
And what you enjoy. And the most important thing in business is to always enjoy, even the most tedious of jobs, enjoy it with the people you love being around, because you will grow even more. You only have to look at kids, your own children, my grandson. If they're around kids they love, they play, they're happy.
Yes.
It's like, surround yourself with the right people and you'll succeed.
Yeah, and that energy is
crucial.
And I think you can always spot it too if there's one person in the team, whether, not necessarily somebody leading, but in the team that walks in and has a kind of, their energy's off, it can literally just suck the life out of a room and out of the rest of the team.
But you've also got to be aware of that. I'm very conscious of asking people in my company, like, we all sit down for lunch. We have a table as long as this, where everyone sits, and people are like, who start working, saying, God, we can't believe you sit and eat with everyone. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I've got to eat. Where do you want me to eat? I like my table as long as I have my chair. But I think that, if somebody was to ask me, is there something you would have liked to have known from day one starting business? What I wish someone had taught me was that the vulnerability and the authenticity about being a woman in business was okay.
Yes.
And it's taken me many years to realize that. And I think that if people younger in business who start off understand that. I used to kind of understand it and talk about it, saying, if I wanted balls in business, I'd have them, but I don't.
Yeah.
I always wanted to be a woman in business, but if I'd known that it was okay to be vulnerable and all of those and be feminine, and realize that that was the power, then that was the one thing I wish someone had taught me.
You're so right. You're so right. We actually discussed that a lot on this podcast, that actually it's stepping into that and not thinking we have to like. I think we're almost taught, aren't we, at a young age, that if we're walking into those rooms, we've got to have that kind of ball busting mentality.
Oh, we've all done it.
Charge in there and kind of prove our worth. But actually,
The
your worth
opposite
is
does
being
better,
feminine
yeah.
in there. And I actually, Emma Greed discussed that on the first ever episode of this podcast, where she said, actually, don't let that intimidate you, and don't sort of overcomplicate it, because actually if somebody like you isn't in that room, that means they need you. So just show up as right?
Well, I always say that. It's like, you know, if you're in a position where you've got a business and people want you, that's it. They want you. You don't have to prove anything else. The proof is then in what you do and how you present it and your passion about it and how you deliver it and how you stick to your deadlines and your costings and your budgets and all of those things. And that, to me, is the authenticity. It's those things where you tick all of those boxes. And that's when people will sit round a table and go, I've got to tell you, we had an amazing experience with Kelly Hoppen. You know, she did a great job and whatever. And it's the word of mouth, I've always said, is the most powerful. And it can work to the opposite,
of course,
right?
Yes.
And so that's really key. And so who you get into bed with in business is so critical. And it's not about the now. It's about when things go wrong, how that unfolds.
Yes. It's like marriage, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we discussed that a lot, that actually when you're, you know, whether that's taking on investors or sort of deciding how that moves forward and who you're in partnership with is always thinking of the ahead, not necessarily the here and
now.
Yeah. I want to do our rocket round now. It's essentially quick fire questions. But we can, you know, I don't need one word answers. I say quick fire, it's never quick on this show. The first question is, what are the non-negotiables, do you believe, for launching a business?
I think the non-negotiables when starting a business is when you come up with an idea and you're so sure that that idea is what you want to do. For me, that's the non-negotiable. It's like how you then chop that up into creating that business. Because too often I hear people say, I've got this brilliant idea, I've just started this business, and then people pull it to pieces.
Yeah.
For me, that's the time that you kill something.
That's so true.
Right? Because that first moment of passion, for me, that instinct, especially in women, is real.
Yes, and it's like that aha moment.
Right. And of course, down the way, there are going to be things that you need to change and manipulate, but never take away that thing at the beginning and have to negotiate that diamond that you've created, because you have time in a business to work out how to maneuver it, to get it so that it's polished and flawless. So that's what I would say.
That certainty is the non-negotiable in itself.
Yeah.
Yes. When did you first realise that you truly launched?
Birth.
Yes, I love that. She always knew. She always knew.
No, I think for me, two things. One, Terence Conran asking me to write my first book. Wow. For me, that was like, wow. Like, he was my kind of icon, you know, amazing guy. You know, he actually wrote the foreword to my last book, which he's never written a foreword to a book. So that was amazing. And I suppose the second one was when the FT How to Spend It, Lucia van der Post, who I still am in contact with, wrote a double page on me. Wow. And in those days, the FT How to Spend It, her column was like, if she wrote about you, you've arrived.
Right.
And I remember, and I can still see myself in my studio. You would have loved my studio in those days. Looking at it and thinking, wow, actually now I can just do it and not have to prove.
Yes.
And I think when there's a moment where you don't have to prove to anyone that you're good at it, because that's so exhausting, right?
Yeah.
And you can just do it, that to me was that moment.
Yes, you're right. Just in being in the doing and getting on with it, not worrying about impressing or...
It was just, I was doing it for me and everything else kind of followed.
I love that. I love that. What's the first thing you do when you wake up and the last thing you do before you go to bed?
Oh, that's easy. First thing I do is wiggle my toes.
Love that, just to check they're still there.
Second thing I do is take a mouth guard out because I grind my teeth at night. Then I go and make...
We have so much in common.
Oh, really?
I grind my teeth.
Oh, it's the worst. Then I do a sort of small, it's not meditation because I can't meditate, but I sort of do this thing, I'm grateful, think about all the great things and whatever. And I kind of fast forward that so I can go downstairs and make my hot water and lemon and my espresso, my black coffee, make one for John because he likes it cold because I'm up very early. So by the time he drinks it, it's perfect. And then I just sit in bed and kind of just check my phone to see if there's anything from the kids. And then John kind of wakes up and then we kind of chat and kind of glide into the morning. And
That's
then
so nice.
I then go and do a workout. And what was it? The last thing I do at night?
Yes.
Sort of reverse, take makeup off, get into bed. John and I talk again. Like we are like this, John and I. So we're good together. A lot of the time we'll watch something in bed, you know, and we fall asleep to that. But I always try and think good things as I'm going to sleep so that I'm, you know, and I sleep really well.
Yeah, that's nice.
So, yeah.
Do you... What time? Because you say that you wake up a lot earlier, and John, what time are we talking? Because
5:40.
Yes. Yeah.
I was awake at 4 this morning, but I managed to go back to sleep. But I like to be up. My grandpa always used to say, "You'll get more done before anyone else is awake." And I now send emails early in the morning, and I go, "This isn't until 9. Don't answer." Because we've had this conversation.
It's like the brain dumping, isn't it?
And this new thing I have, which is just so annoying for me, but I've stopped myself from sending emails on weekends. So I write an email to myself going, "Remember this." So on a Monday morning, I have to then write all the emails to everyone. So I have more emails from myself on a weekend than anyone else.
That's so funny. Just to check you're still there. Well, I've started this thing that there's a few of us that are in it, and we've got
you told me.
Did I tell you this?
Yeah.
The to-do list. So basically we have pinned a to-do list on WhatsApp. And no one's allowed to talk in it. It's not like it's not a, because things get lost, don't they?
I remember that. I need to copy that.
It's really good. And that's at 3 a.m. or whatever it is when I've woken up and I'm like, email so-and-so to check in on X, whatever that is.
But there's no expectations that somebody has to...
Yeah, and it's muted.
So
Everyone's
good.
got it on mute, but you can always see it at the top.
Think most of my team have got me on mute anyway.
Babe, we got muted way before we knew we were. I think that's the only way for people like us. Is there one piece of advice that you wish that you hadn't listened to?
Wow. No one's ever asked me that. Can't think, but I'm sure there's probably loads of things.
I don't think you'd listen.
Yeah, you're probably right. I probably didn't listen. You're
Yeah.
probably right. You know, I'm so much better now when somebody tries to give me advice. I now know that I listen to it and I don't butt in, and I digest it to try and see why they've said that. Whereas before, I would have probably gone, "You don't know what you're talking about."
Right. As in, like, you're headstrong. You're kind of sure of what it is you want or where you think you want to be. Yes.
I mean, probably the only thing I would say is having my own online store was, something I just so wanted to do. I was like, yeah, easy peasy, But actually, I didn't realize, A, how much time it would take, B, the manufacturing, getting it all there, but also how many millions you have to throw into something like that. And when you're running already a massive empire of another business that is your mothership, I probably should have listened to whoever said to me, don't do it. In fact, I remember Joe Malone saying to me years ago when I first opened a shop on Fulham Road, and I went, oh my God, I'm like the shop girl. I just love it. I'm in there every day and everyone's coming in to see me and I'm the best salesperson in the world. And she went, give it 3 months. You'll be bored with it. You'll be like all the hassles. And she's right, retail and all of that. So I'm much better at designing and having somebody else do that. So probably that was something I should have listened to.
Okay. What's a skill you'd love to learn?
Well, I just kind of did.
Right.
Not giving too much away. I just did Cooking with the Stars.
Yes.
So from somebody who literally knew how to poach a salmon and boil an egg.
Design a fabulous kitchen.
I could design a fabulous kitchen, and the way of display I didn't have a problem with. So watch this space.
Is it like Carrie Bradshaw's when she puts like jumpers in the oven?
That was me prior. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, okay.
So it kind of taught me two things. One, that you can learn.
Yes.
And two, being so dyslexic, if somebody writes a recipe in a way that I can format, I can read a recipe and I can cook.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
So more cooking at home.
Yeah.
Jumpers out the stove.
John is like, this is brilliant.
He's delighted.
Yeah, he's delighted.
He's getting more than a cold coffee now. What would be the dream collab for your brand, do you think? Now we're in an age where it's like brand on brands are collabing, or whether that's like a celebrity ambassador, however that looks. What would be the kind of dream collaboration? I mean, you've really got it with Marks and Spencer, haven't you?
I mean, for me personally, so I suppose there are two. One is a hair.
Yeah.
I've done stuff for L'Oreal, not like you, but I did a great campaign for them, which I love doing because I love the whole message. You look great for your age crossed out. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I must get 400 messages a day. What do you use on your hair? So I've always wanted to do a hair product.
And gosh, for
the business, I've sort of done so many.
Yeah. Well, as I say, yourself like Marks and Spencer is such a brilliant.
I mean,
collab.
that is the dream. It's like the Don for me. But I suppose at a different level, at the higher end, the likes of Baccarat or doing something like that.
Yes.
But those things come. They always come in eventually. But yeah, I mean, I've lucked out with Marks and Spencer. I mean, I'm doing so much more with them, and we've designed right up till the end of next Christmas.
Wow, it's such a perfect fit, isn't
Yeah,
it?
they're
It
just
really
so
is.
brilliant to work with. You do stuff with them.
Yeah, I'm in the food space, and I have to be honest, it's like my favourite gig.
Yeah.
I eat the goodies. There'll be like a viral strawberries and cream sandwich.
Oh, I haven't tried that yet.
And I eat it.
That's amazing.
It's great. I love it. Every time when my little contract renewal comes back in, I'm like scared they're going to actually remember that they're paying me to do it. I'm like, they haven't caught on yet, have they? Because I absolutely love it. And last one, if you could choose one female figure as a mentor, past or present, who would that be?
Oh, there's a few, but there's somebody you and I both know. I think Emma Grade.
Emma Grade. Oh.
So I have a history with Emma.
Right, tell me.
So Emma and Jens used to look after me. When they had their agency.
When they had the PR agency.
Yeah. And so it's really interesting for me to watch Emma because Emma was behind the camera. She never wanted anything, but from day one loved her. Her energy, her power, her visibility of seeing through something. She had these X-ray vision eyes to be able to see into the future. But her tone and her voice and knowing her and Jens and the kids and everything that she's created. And there are lots of people like that, but I just think she's
amazing.
Beyond, yeah.
She's amazing. And we went for breakfast the week before last, she was over. And we honestly I was late for about 3 meetings because you just
You can't
you look
stop.
at the phone and you're like, oh shit. So she was running off and I was, but she just talks in sound bites and everything she says. Like if there's somebody that I'm like, who could I have on speed dial to run something by? I agree. She's such a good sounding board, but she's always
She doesn't waste time.
No.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, my attention span isn't great
Yeah,
otherwise. So
well,
I
neither
think-
is mine. So yeah, you want information, but that's one thing
Exactly.
I've learned about women. If you've got a good body of women around you, I see that all the time. Where I'll just send a message to someone going, "Could you give me this number?" Or "Does anybody know this?" And you know what? Women are so good. Boom. You could text me any time of the day or night for a number for somebody, whether it was tying your shoelaces.
Yeah.
I'd know the best person for
Yeah.
that. We share.
Yes.
And I think that is a great thing about women is that we're very good at sharing information. And there's never that thing of like, well, I don't want to give it to her because she's going to,
Gatekeeping.
gate
Yeah.
crash my gig or whatever. And I think like Emma is that like on steroids.
It's so true. And I think
Yeah.
I've really found that since starting this podcast because, the reason I started this podcast was to do that, to share, for you to be sat in that seat, to share your advice, to a listener that is desperate to kind of press go on something and sees you as an inspiration. And I'm so kind of, people think that women gatekeep because they're worried that if they give a contact to you, it's going to stop, it's going
it
to take
makes you
food off their
grow.
table. But it's so kind of limiting. And I just don't believe that's true. And I'm such a like, you should meet her, connect with this person. I love networking and kind of like,
But I don't know if we touched on this before. I've always said, if other people have done what you've done, it's brilliant
Yes.
because you can follow their footsteps and learn from them and
Yeah.
actually grow even more.
absolutely
You
that.
know,
And it doesn't hold you back. And I think as women, sometimes that can happen. So when I meet another woman that's like-minded, and I'll be honest, everybody that's sat in that seat really has been. I've made such good friends just by hosting this podcast because it is quite isolating. It's quite a lonely space when you're a founder.
Yeah,
and
of course.
You're so invested in what you're doing and it consumes you because it's your everything, that it is quite lonely and your friends don't necessarily understand it. So to talk to like-minded people has been
it's really liberating.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
really, really liberating. And actually you realise that we're all the same. And I'm kind of there's been such a nice community that's like grown from this organically, which I love. I love it so much. Each episode, I ask our guests to leave a tip. And it's almost like one piece of real tangible advice. I suppose that if somebody's listening to this and they've watched and follow your journey and kind of want to be in the same space but haven't got the first clue how to start that, what would one piece of advice be that you would give to a lady looking to launch?
Well, it's a kind of two answer. I would say if I left a tip, I would say never underestimate the authenticity of power. Because people shy away from power in business because people have been led to believe that that's too strong or wrong.
Right.
If you want to start a business, it doesn't matter if it's my type of business, yours or whatever, your power in that is what charges it.
Right.
So don't be meek and mild. You know, as I was saying, if you've got that idea, hold on to that. Don't let anyone touch that. They can touch other things around it to make you grow. But listen and learn and hold on to your power. Never, ever let go of that because that's yours. It's no one else's. And it's your power that's going to drive your business. So you have to protect your power, your idea, the authenticity behind it. The ideas that grow from all of that is for anyone to tamper with to help you and guide you. But if you hold on to all of that, and if you look at all the big successful people, it doesn't matter if they're big or small in business, they've all had that. I've looked, I've checked, I've read, I've seen, because I always thought, what was that one thing that people have? Because if you're not strong from the core, in your body, everything else falls apart. So think of it as this, you know, really
Yes.
that's important.
Yeah, that is such good advice, because you're right. I think particularly when you're in that sort of startup space, and if it is, for instance, the creativity that's your strong set, that's your skill, you can take so much outside noise on board, and it's really distracting. It's really noisy, and actually you lose.
Yeah, you lose
In
your
essence, you
confidence.
lose your confidence, and that is your power.
You have to switch off the noise around certain parts of a business when you're starting. Not all of it, because then you're just being big-headed.
Yeah,
So you've got to know when you need the help, you know. But you're right, you've got to switch the noise off. If you look at sports people, when they're about to hit a ball or whatever, they've switched the noise off.
Yeah.
They're in that moment. That power that I call it, it's not just going and banging people. It's just that it's your inner power to be able to start a business, because it takes a lot to do that.
Yeah.
And that's the bit you have to protect.
And it's yours, like you
And
say.
it's yours.
That isn't
Own
anybody
it.
else's.
Yeah.
And lastly, I ask everyone this, because I'm, first of all, quite nosy, and I like to know how everybody spends their lunch hour. We talk about ladies who launch, but when it comes to ladies who lunch, I mean, a lot of us don't get the luxury of a lunch hour. But first of all, do you make a
Yes.
conscious time for lunch?
I do, and I make everyone in my company stop for
Love.
lunch and not eat at their desk. So that's why we have this long table. And because I'm such a health kick, it's kind of, everyone's a bit like that now. So
Yeah.
people bring in their lunch or they cook it there. So I tend to make my lunch at home in the morning. So I bring in, or I've made something, or once a month we do a pizza Friday, or, you know,
Nice.
whatever. But I do stop for lunch because I like to talk to the team as well, because people sort of drop their guard and you can hear stories. And, you know, at the moment it's Love Island. And, you know,
that's a hot topic in here as well, girl.
so and everyone's like, I can't believe you watch it, Kelly. I went, yes, in the dark when John's asleep, you know.
I know.
But I think it's really important. I'm not someone who goes out for lunches.
Yeah.
When I do, and girlfriends say, let's go out for lunch, I just go, why don't I do this more often? Because it's so nice. So
Yeah.
occasionally it's good to do, but I like to eat,
Yes.
you know.
And what if you're prepping in the morning and you've brought something into work, what are you bringing?
So today I did arugula, one of my favourite tomatoes. I did it in a hurry, but I just took 3 turkey burgers that I bake and just
Nice.
put them in. So I kind of ate on the run today. But yesterday I did poached salmon on a salad with eggs and capers, and I mean, just quick,
Gorgeous.
easy, you know.
Cooking with the stars is paying off. There you go. I love it. I just poached a salmon, no big deal. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
I've absolutely loved that. It's been, you know, that I follow everything from afar, and I'm always cheering you on in the background, but I love it. It's so inspiring to hear your story and your tenacity and your like continued success. It's kind of,
I know, it's quite
the gift that
exhausting,
keeps
isn't
on
it?
giving. I know. But do you know what? You know that you've hit the jackpot in life when you're exhausted by something that you love. That's what they say.
I know.
Right?
Well, ditto. I follow everything you do, I think. And I love this. I think it's brilliant.
Thank you. Loved it. Thanks, guys. That was so nice. Don't forget to follow us on Apple and Spotify or wherever you get your podcast to make sure that you don't miss out, because next time we're going to be joined by another incredible lady who launched. If, like me, you're a watcher, then follow us on YouTube, and please don't forget to like and subscribe.